Hi Erica, this is my kitchen garden, and as you can see it's jam-packed. Every single little space is used, and the main reason for that is when I have extra plants I just pop them in somewhere. I've got marrows, pumpkins, tomatoes, spring onions, herbs, carrots, green beans, sweet corn, chard, lettuce, everything. And the way I do it is, because it's a weedy spot, I've planted everything straight into the soil in holes through fabric barrier. When I come across some weeds or I have extra leaves that I need to chop off my tomatoes, I just drop them where they are. And as you can see, when I look between the sweet corn, it's not too bad weed wise. So come autumn, when I harvest, I'm going to just cut everything down to the ground. I'm not going to pull anything up by the weeds, by the roots, and I'll lift the barrier, the fabric barrier, place everything under it, and put the fabric back on top. I also usually use one little corner as a kind of compost heap, and the next year I plant a pumpkin into that. So usually by about February I stop adding stuff to that compost heap, cover it up, and usually it's decomposed enough to be used. So to rotate crops, what I do is, there are pre-cut holes in the fabric barrier and I just move them to a different part of the garden. And all the tomatoes are planted in pots, and as I've still got the frame of the polytunnel, I tie the bamboo canes to it, and I also strip all the leaves of the bottom part of the tomatoes. As you can see, I've got all kinds growing amongst the vegetables. I've got nasturtiums and poppies and whatever. I always make an allowance for slug damage, and usually when the plastic is on the polytunnel it becomes a real caterpillar fest, and there's hundreds and hundreds of caterpillars in the polytunnel. I'll be putting the plastic back on this autumn if we get a warm day towards the end of September. But the sweet corn is doing great, the grapes are doing great, the tomatoes are doing great, and I've even got some red cabbage there amongst all the leaves. And there you've got some salad gone to seed. But as you can see, it's jam-packed. I also plant salad crops straight into cardboard boxes. All that compost will be added to the soil in the polytunnel afterwards. And as you can see, the strawberries are still flowering and still producing. And here's one of my pumpkins. As you can see, it's not doing too badly. That's planted on fabric barrier too, and what I do is I add a bit of compost on the plant where the nodes are, where it can root again, so that's extra feed for the plant. I've planted my strawberries in hanging baskets, and I'll be putting them into gutters next year. So I've sourced some gutters and I'm going to hang the gutters up against the wall. And here's an overview of my front garden. As you can see, it's just as much a jungle. Everything's starting to go over a little bit now. And in my front garden I've also planted some pumpkins and some tomatoes, and I used a gym ball. It was an old punctured gym ball. I cut it in half and used the base as a planter for, it's got 2 tomatoes in and 2 pumpkins. I also grow runner beans amongst my sweet peas. Not exactly a conventional front garden. So I've got runner beans there amongst the flowers. And I've also got some red cabbage amongst my little jungle. And the crowning jewel in my front garden is this little tree. It's a black bean locust called Twisty Baby. And in summer it's absolutely gorgeous, and in winter it's got a beautiful, beautiful frame with zigzag branches, and it looks really, really nice. And below it I've got a twisty hazel, and my fence is made out of a Damascus rose. That rose has been in for over 60 years and still produces masses of flowers every year. So my advice to you is, don't worry about convention, just do what you can and try different things. There's no right or wrong in gardening. All you have to do is please yourself. On the plot where we grow our vegetables, everything is much, much more conventional and in rows, and this garden is the product of 20 years, as I said, chop and drop and letting nature get on with it. I plant things, if they survive, fine. If they don't, I'll try something else. As you see, there's weeds amongst the flowers. The grassy bit I got out of a river. It's called Poacher's Breeches, and that tall plant is a moraine that I rescued from a building site. I got one plant, a young plant, and every year it comes back in a different spot. As you can see, the leaves are kind of all brown and mouldy, but it's pretty in its own way. I wish you lots of luck with your gardens, and you've got a lot of work ahead of you, but little by little, year by year, you will see things change and you'll put the garden to your own hand.